Hi Facebookers, hi YouTubers, hi Instagrammers, how are you? Okay, I'm just going to do this vlog, so I don't know how it's going to go. I've sort of planned it out in my head, but it's a controversial. Well, it's not really a controversial subject, but it is a controversial subject, if you understand what I mean. So a little background to me. When I was about 21, between the ages of 21 and 24, I flirted with converting to liberal and reform Judaism. I had always loved the Jewish religion, and at that time in my life, as would eventually lead to my transition, I was searching for my identity. I was searching for something. I didn't convert to Judaism for a number of reasons. My gender identity had to be tackled, and I knew that by the time I was 24, and I'd been putting it off, and in the end I decided I need to do this. This is something I need to do. So I didn't convert to Judaism, but I did pray in a synagogue, the local synagogue that is sort of like a community hall in Fair Oak in Hampshire. I would go there, I would pray with the other people converting to Judaism and the Jewish folk that were there. I took part in Seder meals, I took part in Passover, I celebrated Passover, and for a time when I was at home I would always celebrate Shabbat, so the Sabbath on the Friday at sunset. So I always had an affinity to Judaism, which I came to when I was in year 10 and 11, studying GCSE religious education, and the religion just sang to me. All the identity of the religion, the paraphernalia of the religion, the language of the religion, the songs, the prayers, the imagery, the iconography. I can't say it now. I'm not going to say it. The image of the religion just sang to me. But so did Buddhism, but not as much as Judaism did. The customs, the celebrations, the traditions, the community. I met a lot of people along the way, and a lot of them were IDF, Israeli Defense Force soldiers, one of which I knew when I was doing my time in the Sealed Knot, 17th century reenactment organisation in the UK that does battle reenactments of 17th century battles during the War of the Three Kingdoms, or the English Civil War, or whatever term you want to use, during 1642 till about 1653, I think, the Civil Wars. I met a lot in that organisation, and some of their opinions and some of their frame of referencing and some of their outlook on life was kind of, oh. But it didn't put me off wanting to convert to Judaism. I, at the time, didn't really associate the state of Israel with Judaism. I knew it was sort of like, at that time, a quasi-Jewish state, a Jewish state as such. But I didn't equate the two. To me, it was a religion. Why? Well, this is probably because of my upbringing. When I was born, I grew up when the troubles in Northern Ireland were going on, and the bombing of Beirut, the uprisings, the intifadas, and the peace treaty that came about that could have led to a two-state solution back in 1993, I believe, before the assassination of the then Prime Minister who brought about the peace process in Israel-Palestine. So I didn't equate the two. The religion was separate. So the conditioning I had was, I kind of look, it's grown as time has gone on, and it's got to the point now, okay, I'll just go with it. Israel is an apartheid state. It is, if you look at it from an outside perspective. The way it treats the Palestinians, they're hemmed in, they've taken all their land, most of their land. Gaza is nothing more than an open-air ghetto. It really is. And growing up in my childhood, watching all this unfold, it built up in you this feeling that this was all disproportionate, and the Palestinian people were, to a large enough extent, being disproportionately punished from remaining within the borders of what the Israeli dreamt of as the Israeli state. I don't like talking about this subject too much because my family, baby brother, has married into a family that has Jewish members of the family. And if anybody who's watching this remembers back in 2014 when the last round of serious fighting took place in Israel, Palestine, in Gaza, about 2014, we did a show on the Fresh Brew podcast that I hosted and my two brothers took part in, co-hosted on, and we discussed the bombing in Gaza, and it got to a point where the questioning got too much for my baby brother, who felt inclined to defend the Israeli position on what they were doing in Gaza in 2014. He felt like he had to defend it because of his family, his new in-laws as such. It got to a point where the questioning got... I asked him a particular question on death toll, and he dropped the mic. We didn't see him because he was in his studio in Trowbridge and we were in our studio in Bishop's Waltham, and we heard him drop the mic in his studio, get up off his chair and walk out the studio. And for about 5-10 minutes he didn't come back to do the show. He did come back eventually, but he didn't come back straight away. He had to have a time out. Now, this is why it's complicated, because I hate anti-Semitism. I hate all forms of racism, all forms of bigotry, all forms of Islamophobia, transphobia, homophobia, all that. I hate it. It's not necessary. It marks you out as someone who is stupid if you do those sorts of things. You are just insanely stupid. But Israel has become... When I used to listen to some of the people in the Sealed Knot who fought for the IDF, their attitudes towards the Palestinians was fundamentally racist. The attitudes the Israeli state has towards the Palestinian populations of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip is fundamentally racist. They are I don't want to... This video is going to get suppressed. But it's fundamental to the fact that they are ethnically cleansing the Palestinians out of their land. And it's been going on since the Nakba in 1948, when about 700,000 Palestinians were forcibly removed from their homes and another few thousand were killed in the fighting that ensued between the then Israeli forces and who were defending the Palestinians, who the UN and America and Britain had given up on and just said, right, we're going for an Israeli Jewish state. Yeah. So since the Nakba, the Palestinians have been slowly ethnically cleansed from the lands that they have called home for hundreds, if not a millennia. Over a millennia. It's not necessary. I used to believe in a two-state solution. I grew up with Clinton and Yasser Arafat, and I can't remember I think I remember the Prime Minister of Israel's name at the time, but I'm not going to say it because I think I'll butcher his name. I won't get the name right, but I won't pronounce it correctly. But I grew up at that time hoping that, like with South Africa, peace would come to Israel, but it just wasn't to be. They assassinated their Prime Minister, and that was it. Job done. All straight back to a form of ethnic cleansing. So I did believe then in a two-state solution, but not now. I think there can only be one state, because there is no Palestinian state to have a two-state solution with. The Israelis have basically taken all their land and built on it, or surrounded it with high walls, or hemmed them in, or put the Palestinians in, and so there is nothing really left. And this whole cycle of violence that has taken place in the last over a week or so now was started when the Israeli police started evicting Palestinians from their homes in East Jerusalem, where some of them had lived for hundreds of years. That's how it started. It wasn't it wasn't Hamas firing rockets into Gaza. It was the Israelis turfing people out of their houses to ethnically cleanse the West Bank of Jerusalem. No, the East Bank of Jerusalem, I think it is. I might be not. I can't. I can't pronounce the name, but it's a housing district in either East or West Jerusalem, and they're being evicted from their homes to make way for Israeli settlers. Now, people don't like you using terms like Gaza is an open-air ghetto because it sums up what happened during the Holocaust that the Jews suffered. However, there was an incident during this uprising that brought home to me that there is no difference. A Palestinian shop owner had his shop in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, one of the two cities, trashed. It was smashed up by Israelis. They smashed it up, chucked everything everywhere. Journalists, and it went viral on social media, showed two Israeli girls dancing outside the shop, celebrating the destruction of the Palestinian shop. If you superimpose that image on 1938 Berlin during Kristallnacht, and the Germans celebrating, and the Nazis celebrating the destruction of Jewish property and homes, you have to say, what is the difference? To me, it is almost like the abused has become the abuser. That's what it feels like to me. The abused has become the abuser. And I don't know what to make of it, because I know it's not a Jewish religion thing, but to the Israelis, it is. And I don't condone anti-Semitism. I hate it. It's stupid. The conspiracies around anti-Semitism are just bloody stupid and bear no relevance to what the real world is. But the images that we see coming out of Israel and Gaza and the West Bank turn people against the religion, and I fear it makes anti-Semitism more prevalent in these times. It doesn't make it right, and it's not justifying it, but you can see how it develops. I do not believe in a two-state solution. The Israeli government, the right-wing neo-fascist government in Israel, leading up with some of the most racist right-wing political parties in the Knesset, I mean, some of their views are just shocking. But I don't believe a two-state solution is possible anymore, because they've annexed so much land and settled so much land that there is no Palestinian state, and the only solution to this is a one system. One vote, one member, one vote. One voter, one vote. Doesn't matter if you're Palestinian, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Arab, doesn't matter. One person, one vote. It's too late for a two-state solution, and I think the Israeli government do know that, and that's why they've basically done what they've done. So that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon, YouTubers and Instagrammers and Facebookers. Goodbye.